What's up, guys? So, if you've been watching Wednesday afternoon worship, you've heard me on several occasions at this point talk about obedience boons and what's good, what's bad, how to use them, but a couple of people have asked me exactly what these mean and how they work and stuff, and it makes me realize that I have, in fact, made a bit of a mistake. I am definitely charisma-based, not intelligence-based, and I'm not the best teacher on planet Earth, I'll freely admit. I'm one of those guys that when you ask how to make a peanut butter sandwich, it's just kind of get peanut butter, get sandwich, stop complaining, eat your food. So now that we're 50 bajillion weeks in, I'd like to stop, take a moment, and explain to you guys exactly how the Deific obedience feats work in Pathfinder 1st Edition, because they're really good. I'm going to jam this at the beginning of the series, and it'll be our secret that I didn't do this first. Our normal deity worship will come right after this. Next week, actually, it's a homebrew one. I'll go ahead and say, because you guys are going to have to wait a week, it's Divas, who comes to us from Baltic mythology, I believe. Yeah, it's going to be a homebrew. But for now, if you guys are liking what you're seeing, remember, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And today, this episode of Wednesday Afternoon Worship was brought to you in part by Joseph Citadino. Or, our own personal necromancer. Thanks so much for your help, my friend. Thanks so much for your builds. It means just a whole lot. Now, let's crack open our Inner Sea Gods and take it back from the beginning, shall we? Alrighty, so Deific Obedience is a feat that appears in Inner Sea Gods with a prerequisite knowledge religion of 3 ranks, and you must worship a deity. And it says that each deity requires a different daily obedience, but all obediences take no more than 1 hour per day to perform. Once you've performed the obedience, you gain the benefit of a special ability or resistance as indicated in the obedience entry for the god to whom you perform the obedience. So to break that down real quick as we move along here, we're going to use Erastil as an example because Erastil's obediences are really good. By taking Deific Obedience, having 3 ranks in knowledge religion, and spending that hour doing what Erastil wants you to do, you receive a +4 sacred bonus on survival checks, which isn't that bad at low-level play, especially if you're out in the woods a bunch, but that's not why you take the feat. If you have at least 12 hit dice, which is why oftentimes I'll say at 12th level, this happens, you also gain the first boon granted by your deity upon undertaking your obedience. So we'll use the exalted boons, for example. At 12th level, you would get Charm Animal 3 times a day, Animal Messenger twice a day, or Summon Nature's Ally 3 once a day. If you have at least 16 hit dice, you also gain the deity's second boon, summoning a pair of Hound Archons in Erastil's exalted case, and if you have at least 20 hit dice or more, you also gain the deity's third boon. For Erastil, that's spamming out Hero's Feast. Unless a specific duration or number of uses per day is listed, a boon's effects are constant. Certain prestige classes, this is probably the longest feat you'll ever see in your life by the way, gain access to these boons at lower levels as a benefit of their prestige class. If you have no levels in one of these prestige classes, you gain the boons marked as exalted boons. If you later take levels in Sentinel or Evangelist, you lose access to the exalted boons and gain access to the new boons appropriate to your class. If you ever fail to perform a daily obedience, you lose all access to the benefits and boons granted by this feat until you next perform the obedience. Now, Pathfinder is not like 3.5 in such a way that prestige classes were not necessarily necessary, but just really good. However, I think if you ask most people who know a lot of stuff about the meta, at least this has been my experience, about what prestige classes are good, Evangelist is definitely one of them. But to access the Evangelist or Sentinel boons, we must dip into those prestige classes. One of my favorite builds that I've ever played in all of Pathfinder, my Centaur Soha 17, I believe it was, then 2 levels of Paladin for Divine Grace, and 1 level of Evangelist, worshipping Erastil, flurrying with a longbow. Oops, now I've added my wisdom to attack and damage against everything within 30 feet of me. That's how the horseman died in a round. I guess when I say horseman, I should say, like, the horseman of the apocalypse. It was brutal, it was beautiful, best character I ever played. But that's how you have access to those things. A little bit of build around, a little bit of dip around, and also, I didn't know this feat existed, actually, before it was brought up to me, so Exploding Atom, if you're out there, you're the best. Thanks for bringing this one up. Diverse obedience requires us to have deific obedience, 5 ranks knowledge religion, and our alignment must match that of our worship deity, allows us to treat ourselves as though we had 2 more hit dice for the purposes of determining what divine boons we gain as a result of performing our obedience. It doesn't allow access to divine boons granted through prestige classes early, so basically just exalted here. And if you take levels in a prestige class or archetype that offers an accelerated rate, that feat becomes silly and you just retrain it. Anywho, whenever you would gain a boon as a result of your deific obedience, and not through a prestige class, you can choose among the options available for Evangelist, Exalted, or Sentinel. You can mix and match. I didn't know this existed. Divine Anthology is a really good book. Once you make that selection, it's permanent, but you can choose from a different category each time. You gain a new boon as you increase in hit dice. That's amazing. That's really strong. For example, at 16th level, an evangelist who worships Erastil can make a copy of their animal companion. Not so good for me, because I was playing a monk. I didn't have an animal companion. Would I rather summon a pair of Hound Archons? Probably not. And I wasn't wearing armor made from leather or animal hide, because monk, so both of those are not the best for me. But if you're something like a ranger who wants to get scent and a +2 bonus to your armor, but you decided to bond with your companions, yeah, no, super strong. Definitely take it, definitely worth a feat to be able to mix and match. And as I move forward, with obediences and stuff, that's definitely something I'm gonna have my eye on. But regardless, that's how that works. I'm sorry if I was not super clear at the beginning, and I hope this clears it up for those of us out there who may not quite understand. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos in the next episode of Wednesday Afternoon Worship, where either we kick this series off with the story of Apsu and Dahak, or talk about Divas and do us a little bit of homebrew. Drops next Wednesday.